Hi, I'm Deanna Batdorf, the co-founder of the Dhyana Center. I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner and educator.
And I'm Terry Simmons of Alchemy Birth and Wellness. I'm a community midwife, health educator, advocate, and mentor.
So we thought we'd take a moment to really introduce a beautiful topic that is really one of the hardest ones, I think. I think it's a really hard one. Maybe I should speak for myself. And I think it lends to being a good midwife or practitioner, to be honest. And that is because it's about setting up routines, looking at what it takes to take action and follow through. So we're going to be looking at routines, taking action, and follow through. And we don't really have to follow through anymore. I say this a lot, like people don't even we're not even putting a distinctive value anymore on follow through. We can change our mind, we can get out of a relationship, we can, you know what I mean? There's so many different things that we just don't have to follow through with. And it doesn't mean everything needs follow through. But if you think about how many times you've had a great idea, or you went back to the same idea, but you keep talking about it and you just haven't gotten to actualizing it, that's really more what I think this is about. How do you set up healthy habits, routines, and how do you take the baby steps of action? And then how do you reap the rewards and the harvest of healthy follow through? So I'm curious, Terry, what does that mean to you?
I think I'll just relate it back to helping somebody have the birth that they're desiring. It takes recognizing what your routine needs to be. So that means recognizing who you are and not hiding behind anything that you already know. There's always could be surprises, but if you already know something, then you should put that on a piece of paper and start your list, and then seeing what routines you need. And we go back a lot to the elemental. If you run hot, you get upset a lot, then you want to cool things down. If you are really emotional and take things personally, well, you want to get in flight and shake it off. And that's the air ether versus the water or earth.
And the water earth's going to be the stuck in the mud. Yeah. So when do you stir the pot? When you know you're stuck.
And really going back to the basics. I mean, I remember meeting Dr. Gupta, big influence in Deanna's life, teacher for many years. I did study with him as well. And he read my pulse and he said, well, you just need to do these 3 simple things. And I said, yeah, I know all that stuff. Tell me more. Here I am. I'm paying you money. I'm wanting more. I'm never going to maybe see you again. I want more. And he says, well, if you did those first 3 simple things, you might not need to know more. And that was really, how many years ago was that?
That was 15, 16 years ago.
And it just hit me and oh, wow, okay, When I said I did those things, his response was obviously not. Because if you did those things, then we wouldn't be talking about those things. And it was really, really cool. It seemed so simple at the time, but our bodies are made to birth babies if we choose to do that. There are very few times that it doesn't work out that way, and usually comes back to nutrition, access to food, water, enough food, enough water around the world, safety. And it comes back to these really, really basic things that all of the people in this country that I work with have those things already in hand. So you can just kind of put those aside and really look at what the routine, simple routines can make a big difference.
And I notice 2 things I want to mention in routine. One is most people have more routine than they are realizing. So I start helping people target, what are the routines you really do have? Do you take, what if they don't even they're like, I don't make tea, I'm supposed to make tea and I don't make tea. I'm like, yeah, but do you take a, vitamin every day? Do you brush your teeth every day? Those are actually things that are related to daily care. brushing your teeth, taking care of, every part of you. And so, if you eat every day, if you always at least have a glass of water, even though you need more, you do have the starting foundations of routine. It just means you need to develop them, and you need to give yourself a little bit of pat on the back, a little bit of credit. Like, wait, I do have routine. I can do this. And then you use that as the foundation to develop more routines. And the other thing I wanted to say about routine is our cells mimic the majority. So if your cells have gotten depleted and they're weak and they're flat, and if that becomes the majority, then all your cells are going to actually form the same flat cell. So if we think about that, if most of your cells are plump, you're going to mimic plump, juicy cells. And so when we look at routines and habits, because those words are put together a lot, it's going to take just as much time. If you know you have an unhealthy habit, you're going to have to do it almost the same amount of times, the opposite. You're going to have to do the opposite in your routines to unwind those unhealthy habits. So you can focus on your unhealthy routines all day long for the rest of your life, and guess what? They're going to get you nowhere. They're not going to get you anywhere. But if you're willing to say, what can I do instead? How can I do it different? What can I choose instead? That's when you start unwinding the negative routine and you start bringing in healthy routines a little more effortlessly.
Our next pillar is taking action, which you did speak of just now. Taking action of routine, changing routine, and the more fun you make a routine, the more fun you're gonna have with it, and the more likely you'll do it. The gravitating to a flavor of something that you like, a sound, anything that you can add what you already like into your routine is really helpful. And taking action, eating well, I love to say add, and you have no place for the stuff that's not necessarily good for you. It's very hard to show up getting guidance from someone or yourself knowing that you need to take out these things. And we're, if you're watching this and you're going to show up at our course, you're probably a rebel like we are. So, we can be a rebel against ourselves.
We hope so.
We can rebel against ourselves, and that's the negative part of being a rebel, right? We can talk all day about different other, positives and negatives of being that, but one is that we rebel against ourselves, and if we have add. I think it's a lot easier for a rebel to add something than to take it out.
Yeah, like I always put in my nutrition chart, it has a small box in the middle that says KNOW, know to avoid these foods. And then everything else on the page is yes, 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 yes. Yes on the proteins, yes on the fats, yes on the carbs, yes on the fruit. I mean, spices, everything, And then you can start getting into details. Which fermentation do you need, and all these details. But to me, taking action, sometimes people will skip right into that inaction. They're kind of like, tell me everything I need to know so that I can make a move. And then I'm like, well, how about make a move and then you'll learn more, and then make another move and you'll know more, and then make another move and you'll know more. So one of the things I notice with people is they kind of only want to take action exactly when they have like everything buttoned up and put together. And I think sometimes that is not always advantageous, because we do, just like, babies in the world when they're learning to walk. They're going to fumble. There's going to be some awkwardness. They're going to be all, whoa, I don't know where the ground is. How do I do this? And they have to maneuver and learn every detail of their body to literally walk across the field or the room they're in. And so just keeping in mind that taking action really is those baby steps. And it doesn't have to be the big, huge, I'm gonna do this massive project that's gonna take me the rest of my life. Well, then you're gonna have to make sure that you set some routine. You're gonna have to make sure that you take little baby step actions to be able to really get to that goal. Those are some of the things I think of in taking action. The other thing in taking action that has to do with this class specifically in the immersion is Terry has a very different concept of what taking action is that is super supportive to the family unit. And that is hands off. So there's a lot of ways to take action without involvement. So taking action is like, I'm over here watching your every move. I'm assessing what's going on. I will intervene if necessary for your safety, but you get to be witnessed in taking action. You get to be the one to decide when, what are the steps to do it, and how do you want to do it. So let's also keep in mind that taking action, there's a whole lot of ways for us to get to the town nearby. There's a lot of ways to get to town. You know what I mean? So, how do you want to do that? If you're somebody taking this course who's actually the birther, how do you want to, do this journey for yourself? And so it's empowering to be able to take action. And there's a lot of ways to do it. Like you could be super hands off and you could just be holding space. And that's taking action because you're not floating off doing nothing. You're not sitting in the corner or like, I'm going to start thinking about something else in my life because, I'm going to be here for hours. You know what I mean? No, you have to stay put and stay in the routine of that birth and remember what that birther really was telling you they wanted as their outcome, because the next step here is follow through.
A lot of women are faced with induction when going to the hospital, and that might be just the policy of the hospital. It might be right on the due date, might be before the due date. The guest date might be at 41 weeks, where 40 weeks is full term, or the due date full term. They push it back and back. It might be at 42 weeks. It might be at 43 weeks. But sometimes you get pushed against a time. And it's up to you to take the action to move to the next level. Having that intention is going to set the action. And I have seen that time and time and time again, that women, whether we're just going to let nature take its place and action happens on a physical body, which was really cool because we don't really know what starts labor, and that's like one of the only magical things left. We don't really know when that's going to happen. Some people say it's a lot like falling asleep, that you have to feel safe and you have to take action to fall asleep. So I think that's a pretty cool analysis. But if you believe that an induction will happen, it'll probably happen. And so taking action is also a belief of what it is to action, to come to follow through.
Yeah, so you're really talking about the idea of like the intention you set is taking action.
Yeah.
And I don't think people put that together all the time, that concept. We think taking action is like, I'm gonna do it. But we don't often think
that this feels right.
Exactly.
Taking action is this feels right. So when you speak of taking no action as action, it gets transformed into this is right and this is all I'm called to be and do, and that is the action. And the follow through is that you trust it. And you can always go back to your hand on your heart, to your power spot, and if you feel right there, then you can go with it. Because we have our conditional self and we have our true self, and true action and ultimately follow through is a lot easier when we're working from here than from here. Because working from a conditional place, we can always think of why we would want to do something. But if we feel it true to be here, we don't actually think about it. It's super boom. This is what we're doing. This is why, because it feels right, and it feels right on every level. And there's no question. So follow through.
Well, follow through is giving it everything you got. When you feel like you've already done everything you could, but actually you haven't. because you're not there, the end result isn't there yet. In this case, the birth alchemy immersion, that would be the idea that that baby isn't in your arms yet. It hasn't, presented itself in the world and taken its first breath yet. And so, so many things happen right here in this follow through. It's the most common place I find people give up. And it's, I think, because we're also up against our potential. Like I'll notice people are like, I feel good. You know what I mean? I'm feeling good. We're there. And then the intention maybe goes a little out the door. They give the routine up a little bit because they're feeling good. They stop worrying about the taking action in the routine. And then all of a sudden they wonder why things didn't end up where they wanted it to be. Or the symptom come back, like, wait, the symptom came back. What happened? And then when we go to track it without guilt, but when we go to really track it and for that person to be honest with themselves, they felt okay, a little better. And that was actually the bar that they set that's enough. Instead of being like, what if I could even feel better than this? What if I could have more than this blaringly obvious symptom gone? What if I could also see my gut change? What if I could also, see other things change or my mannerisms change? And so I think our potential often stops us from following through because you're going to grow with following through. And we think we all want to grow. But in actuality, some of us are afraid to grow, and it's a challenge to grow because there's things to tend to and be responsible for with growth. And
so just as that positive can come up and stop you, the negative also, because I remember learning the pulse and seeing every time that I was, and I'm still an avid student of this, but when I was learning, I could see that every time I would almost get there, my brain would scatter so much that I thought I would never get it. And after a while, I was like, oh wait, it's reprogramming, it's getting there, and boom, I would know it at a different level. And we see that with children, learning to read. I watched that in, so many student midwives learning skills. Just before, and because I have that wisdom and knowing, like I can just remind, oh wait, if you knew a certain level and then you all of a sudden got super scattered, you might want to stop thinking that there was no way to get through. But if you continue to trust that you took the right action and that you're doing everything, chances are you will, your brain will do all its stuff and fall back into its right places, and really you will advance. Your knowledge will advance twofold, threefold, tenfold. And reminded me when you were talking about children, and when you were talking about how some people need to know everything about a thing before they can do it, and that can take a lot longer. I've noticed that a lot with, helping children to learn to go to a toilet to pee or poop. If they can learn that before they conceptualize what they're doing, it's a lot easier. If they don't have any kind of pressure to do something, but they naturally just do it, it happens a lot quicker. If you miss that window of opportunity, which is actually a lot earlier than what is traditionally taught, then they really do need to conceptualize the entire thing. It's not their fault. They're not anything. It's just that they are at a different place in their brain to now need to know everything about it before they do it. And that's not their fault. It's just that we've only been doing the toilet in a certain room for a short period of our blueprints of going to the bathroom, whatever that means. Now, see, even going to the bathroom is a place, So, we just really need to remember that we haven't been doing this like this very long.
Yeah. And we have to remember we have a lot at our disposal that allows us to change our mind, or maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try that, maybe I'll try this. Oh, that's not working, I'll try this. So again, I just want to remind us that something I've really been talking about a lot for the last few years is just this idea that the value of follow through is not really what it used to be. I mean, some of you watching this are young enough that all you've known is convenience. Some of you know that convenience is something that was created, and now we live amongst convenience, and that convenience has really shifted our ability to say, how far can I go the distance? How much can I, we used to be a little more, and I mean this in the nicest way, but we used to be forced into routine because, you had a farmstead and you had to feed the chickens to get the eggs. You had to, you had to water the plants to be able to get the vegetables to cook. You had to harvest the wood to build your house. And so I think we've lost a lot of those. Now, a lot of people are looking for those again, and it makes me so excited because, the homestead is such a precious, precious place where this conversation gave it so much more ease. It was like there were routines from beginning to end. There were places to take action because there was a necessity for follow through. And our convenience world really doesn't push us. It doesn't call for us to really do that. We have to now choose it. And we have to be willing to choose that in our lives. And that's different than it used to be. And everything changes, so it's fine that it's different now. But, it's a whole lot easier to, like I said, leave a relationship, or I'm going to go to another thing, I'm going to go to another job.
And we're also told that failure is a success.
That's right.
And that can mess with people's minds.
That's right. So this is another one of our pillars of alchemy, giving you a broad spectrum of what we'll be holding for you and setting the intention for our immersion so that we can get down to some really great, practical, user-friendly details and all our plant friends and all our assessment tools and everything that both of us have learned through the years working with humans and more. But important, that this is a large container that is going to be wove throughout this entire course.
Yeah, so our course is called Birth Alchemy Immersion. It's a 7 module course, going to be over 7 weeks. We will be doing that in the Ether Live, and we're really looking forward to it. We're hoping a really good group of people are attracted to our course that we can learn from, share our wisdom and information, and build community. Really, this is, whether you're choosing a birth at home by yourself or with somebody in attendance, going to a birth center or hospital, whether you're a birther or helping others, whether you're a partner, a mother, a cousin, just curious about more. The skills that we are going to be sharing are skills that you can use every day. That is not, half of the stuff is not only for pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. It's stuff that every day we can integrate into our lives and make our lives that much more enjoyable. And when we feel good, then everything else goes from there. So we look forward to y'all hooking up with us in June, and find us at the Diana Center website.
Under education, and you'll find the Birth Alchemy there. And you can effortlessly register, and we'll see you in the first module, which is radical collaboration. Adios.